Thomas Workman and A.J. Kavanagh are intuitive channels who have a remarkable ability to speak for a spiritual collective they call the Guides. They are unique in that they channel the Guides together, sharing one mind as they deliver messages. The primary interest of the Guides is helping us all live consistently in the state of joy, accomplished through a set of simple practices they call the infinite pathway. The infinite pathway, journey to self-realization.
Hi, I'm Thomas Workman.
And I'm A.J. Kavanagh. Welcome to the Infinite Pathway, the journey to self-realization. During each episode, Thomas and I talk through the messages we've channeled from a collective of spirit beings we call the Guides.
The Guides want to help us all to realize how the universe works so we can live our lives in consistent joy.
The Guides have helped us select the most important principles we need to understand to live joyfully and to turn these truths into daily practices so we can live our best lives every day.
Exactly. All right, before we get started, I'd like for us to envision something together. Ready?
Yep.
Imagine being born into a universe where everything has been planned and laid out for you. When you were born, where you'll live, what you'll eat every day, what your interests might be, who you'll love, what kind of relationships you'll have, what you'll do for a career, even when you'll transition.
Oh my
everything.
goodness.
Your only duty is to let the system operate as planned. There's nothing to choose and nothing to decide. It's all predestined. Sound like a life you'd like?
I don't think so. It sounds like something out of the Matrix where some people believe that you've got no choice at all.
Right. That's a good example of what I'm talking about. But putting the Matrix theory aside for a minute, what do you think? Is this a life that you might enjoy?
No way. No, not being able to have a choice or make choices really isn't much of a life at all.
Yep, exactly. I think that's very well stated. All right, thanks for joining us for this episode. We are glad that you were able to be with us.
Tom, no, wait, not so fast. I choose to know a whole lot more about what the Guides have told us about making choices, and I'm sure those watching want to know about those important messages from the Guides as well.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was just kidding.
I thought as much.
In this episode, we're going to talk about the choices we make and our ability to choose as an essential tool, not only in our expansion, but as a vital force in the universe. We're glad you've chosen to tune in.
The Guides have made a clear and foundational point about choice in their messaging through us, and that is that there's nothing controlling our choice making. Our free will is something that's built into all beings across the universe. It's a foundational principle because making authentic choices in our lives is actually an important spiritual activity that enables us to grow in our consciousness. Now, as we'll learn in this episode, our ability to choose is actually one of our greatest powers, even though many of us feel powerless, perhaps even unqualified in making choices at all.
Now, there's a lot to understand, but as always, let's let the Guides set the stage for our discussion.
So we will say to you first and foremost that every moment of your life is choice. There are choices that are made, some that are made with great information, others that are made through emotion or made through compulsion. We like this word, compulsion, for this word suggests that there are times when your environment suggests that you must make a choice. Though you have other choices, they do not seem evident at the time. And therefore, it seems the only choice that can be made is this. And this choice causes pain. This choice causes destruction, perhaps. This choice has a set of consequences that linger and that stay with you. These choices are simply choices. They can be made anew.
Let's start with that first statement from the Guides. Every moment of our lives is a choice.
That's a very different way of thinking about our lives, isn't it? Most of us think about the big choices in our lives, our vocation, our marriage, major investments, that sort of a thing. But that's not what the guides are talking about.
Not at all. They mean much more. The guides teach us that every thought we think, every emotion we feel, and every action we take are a choice. In other words, there are options in front of us all the time which we can help that change our mood, connect us with others, or move us closer to manifesting the life we desire. Now, here's how they put it. And so we would say to you, you have many choices, and you have a lovely menu to choose from at any time.
Well, I'll be honest. For many years of my life, I wasn't always able to see those lovely menu of choices in front of me.
Exactly. Chicken or beef, right?
Right.
We've all felt that way, I'm sure, one time or another. But just because we can't always see the choices available to us, they are still very much there. Here's how the guides explain the dilemma. You often put yourself in a forced choice. You give yourself 2 alternatives when there may be 20. And so we encourage you to soften your view of the either-or in your choices, because there are many options for you.
You know, there are a number of foundational premises that the guides have shared that can help us understand the choices that are available to us.
They sure are. As we've said, there's a very foundational premise that all beings in the universe have free will. In other words, they're free to choose whatever they wish without divine intervention, or condemnation. One of my favorite messages from the guides they say often is that the universe can only say yes.
Yeah, I'm sure that can be difficult to believe for those who are stuck in lack or in challenging conditions. We've channeled for a number of people who believe inaccurately that there's a list somewhere of good and bad choices and that we're judged for every bad choice we make.
Yes. You know, there are many people that feel limited about rules about what they should or shouldn't choose, which is the opposite of free will. This often keeps them stuck feeling choiceless in their current circumstances.
And of course, there are the 2 greatest enemies of freedom of choice, guilt and shame.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a great many people across the world that feel racked with guilt and shame for the choices that they've made. The guides address these feelings about the choices we've made often. And here's an example of what they've shared in the past. And be ready, because this is a very powerful message.
Every choice is an opportunity for you to learn. Every choice is your lesson, why you are here for these lessons. But these lessons do not come with you sitting quietly at a desk. These lessons come from your choices and what comes out of every choice. And therefore, a choice that has been made that is a consequence that causes pain, your awareness of this pain is what creates guilt. And we say to you that first and foremost, you must recognize that the choice was simply a choice. It was not a demand. It was not something that you have as a part of your character. It was not an evil within you. There is no such thing. There is no evil within you. This is your creation and not the divine's. And so we suggest that you recognize the choices, and there may have been several, the choices that now cause the negative consequence that you are conscious of, that you are aware of. We say this because there are many times when your choices make consequences that you are unaware of, that you have not become conscious toward, and this is where you are growing, so that you are more conscious of how your choices affect others. This is the oneness. And so we say to you now, this choice has been made, and no remediation is necessary, just love. And so you must begin first by exonerating yourself and separating what it is that you have created as a trial and as a jury and as a sentence, as a punishment.
Wow, that needs a breath to take in.
It sure does. You ready? Well, did you catch that? Every choice is a lesson. I just love that quote from the guides. Instead of seeing every choice as either good or bad or right or wrong, we have the opportunity to learn from our choices so that we can make new choices that serve us better. This is why we are created with the freedom to choose.
And that's a very different mindset. You know, it's interesting that in several of these statements from the guides, we hear the importance of our own consciousness to our choice making. We may be able to make choices all day long, but without being conscious of what may come of them or what we can learn from them, they don't really help us expand. Let's hear the guides talk more about this.
You will need to, as you expand and make these choices, strengthen your grounding with earth, strengthen your spiritual connection with Source. Always. This is always so. For without it, it is easy for you to enter new experiences and to result in fear or in at least confusion. And so with that in mind, we say to you, all roads are open. There is whatever your heart desires that is available to you. What is important is that you choose. You examine your heart's desire and you make a decision of where you shall like to pursue. Now, when we say this, we wish to remind you that no choice is permanent, that you may discover that you made a choice that is not serving you. Then you simply need to make another.
Whew, what a liberating message, and so true for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. There were two more foundational premises in that channeling that we really should add to our list. The first premise is that choice is powered by our heart's desire.
And that's an important one, and a challenge because we're not always in touch with our desire. We also are often taught that our desires can be evil or selfish.
Or unrealistic or unattainable, or that we're simply not worthy of them. Many of these kinds of messages keep us from really listening to our hearts.
But to Source, it's all about our hearts, and our desire is actually part of our life force. I think it's one reason why the guides tell our audiences so often that their hearts are good. Here's what they have to say on two different occasions.
This is advice we give to all of you, that as you make decisions about your life, you ask the simple question, what makes me feel most alive? What gives me most joy? We understand that you may initially feel like none of the choices in front of you do that you are choosing, in fact, amongst the least of choices. And yet we say again to you, joy is not based in circumstance. It is based in a larger inner surge. And so we would suggest you focus on knowing that feeling and striving toward that feeling in your day-to-day circumstances so that you may enable this to occur for you regularly. You open up more and more choices as you suddenly recognize all that is available to you, the wide open space of choice that is there for you have allowed yourself to live on very narrow roads and to only allow certain choices in certain intersections. And what you are discovering is that there is endless choice, so you may go in any number of directions. So the question is to grow closer to understanding your desire, and this we would encourage all of you to spend much more time on, for when you believe that your choices are limited, there is no need for desire and to work through and work out what it is that your heart truly desires. We remind you that the answer to this is much simpler than it appears, for you know now what makes your heart sing.
The guides like to clarify that Source or God or any other divine being is not judging our choices and is certainly not telling us what to do or what we should choose. Here's what they said to a group several years ago. Choice exists in the universe. There is nothing forced, nothing ever demanded, nothing that condemns, separates, or comes in to be fixed. And so, always is the choice.
You know, that reminds me of something the guides have said recently.
All right, then, let's listen.
We remind you, always a message that reminds you of your capabilities, of your possibilities, of your heart's desire. We wish often to remind you of what it is that those guides, your very higher self, are here to communicate to you. For they are not there to warn you. They are not there to dissuade you. They are there to cheer on whatever choice you make for. They understand from an eternal perspective that no choice is wasted, that all choices lead to greater consciousness, greater understanding, if you allow them to, if you separate from shame and guilt of making what you call a wrong choice. There is no such thing, and so all choices are available to you, and some choices that wind up against a wall are in fact the most valuable, for they have clarified for you more of what it is that you wish to move toward. And so your guides are simply there to remind you of all possibilities that exist for you. They are there to show you the love Source has for you, so that you are free to make these choices, free to realize what it is that makes your heart sing.
Did you catch that? No choice is wasted. Wow. This is so different from what most of us were taught. We think that a choice that didn't work out wasn't worth making, but Source sees that choice as essential to our learning. I mean, think about some of the things we've heard about being right or wrong or good or bad or wasted choices from our parents, our religious leaders, even our teachers.
Yeah.
No wonder we're so afraid to make choices.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, we've all faced that, but the guides use a different standard for us to evaluate our choices. Let's listen.
Not all your choices perhaps are serving you best. This means you have choice always, and the simple question being, is this serving me best? Not, will this send me to hell? Instead, the question is, what is it doing to your now? How is it affecting your now? This idea that there is an angel on your shoulder and perhaps a devil on your other shoulder, these are myths that have been carried through on premises that instead are never saying to you, you are wrong or in sin, but are saying to you instead, this may not serve you best, for the bigger picture of your higher self can see what the outcomes may be. Here, dear one, is the simple answer and the truth to remember. You may always choose again. You are never stuck in any choice. You may soon, you may late, you may over years choose again, but you are always given the chance to choose again. So most important is for you to say, how has this choice served me, and what choice might serve me better?
The guides give us the perfect way to evaluate our choices by looking at how well the outcomes of our choices are serving us. We not only have the freedom to choose, but we have the freedom to evaluate our choices based on how they accomplish our desires.
Now, you said there were two premises we needed to cover. What was the other one?
Well, yeah, that's true. It's connected to this idea of evaluating how our choices are serving us. The premise is that although there is no judgment from Source or God or other humans about our choices, every choice we make results in an outcome of one kind or another. Here's their statement. All choice leads to some consequence, and yet is remedied by a simple new choice.
You know, we can't always see these outcomes or consequences until we make the choice and see what happens. You know what? That reminds me of something. We've gone pretty far into this episode, and you haven't had a song lyric to share.
Well, Tom, that's just because I just don't have one.
Well, good thing, because I do. Okay, so from the musical Into the Woods. Cinderella has been wishing all day that she can go to the ball and meet the prince, and so she does, and afterwards, as she's escaping the castle, she runs into the baker's wife, who wants to ask her all about the prince, and she finally asks the question, is he everything that you ever dreamed of? And Cinderella says, would I know? And baker's wife says, well, I would know. And Cinderella says, but how do you know what you want till you get what you want and you see if you like it? All I know is what I want more than all is to know what I want.
Exactly. But I must say, you and I, we have different choices when it comes to our music.
This we do.
Exactly. Okay, well, the guides have said throughout their messages that our determination of whether a choice is serving us or not is based on our desire. Am I getting what I want? And once again, they repeat that if we don't feel the outcome is serving our heart's desire, then we're free to simply make another choice. They explain this in great detail.
You do have this choice. You may feel choiceless, and this we wish for you to begin to address, and your guides are addressing with you regularly, for when you express choicelessness, note that your guides do not rescue. They are not meant to rescue you. They are meant instead to cheer you on. They leave you always in the driver's seat, always driving, yet they sit in the passenger seat and back seat and cheer on every move that you make, even when you feel you have made a wrong turn. For we hope you are hearing us. There is no wrong turn. There is only a turn, and then a turn, and then a turn. A choice, and then a choice, and then a choice. If the choice does not serve, then there is always the opportunity to make another choice. To choose differently, to choose again, over and over and over again. For this is the beautiful experience you have incarnated here and now.
Exactly. So, to better understand choice, we need to understand that we are choosing all the time through the things we think about or the thoughts of others that we surround ourselves with, even when we think about things that we don't really want to manifest.
Right, because the universe never says no.
That's right.
Even when we make choices that don't serve us well. Listen to this conversation with the guides. The divine is always cheering on your choices, yet they are your choices. It is why you have freedom of choice. It is why you are not interrupted when you make choices that do not serve you well or even create suffering for you. It is your choice to decide, and the universe will always support, but never interrupt, will not demand, will not make happen anything but what you wish to happen.
This makes it a little easier to understand why we live in a world of war and violence and tragedy when we entertain ourselves with stories in film or the media that keep these things in the forefront of our thoughts. Surrounding us with these kinds of stories and images just keep them in our thoughts and therefore in our reality.
Very true. I think that's what the guides are trying to teach us, that we need to make conscious choices so that we manifest exactly what we want. Here is a statement from the guides where they pull all this together for us.
The universe is never designed to create suffering, yet its beings oftentimes take circumstances and choose to instead suffer from them when an opposite choice is also available to them, which is to thrive. This is what we are suggesting is possible to you when any circumstance emerges to you. I can suffer, I can thrive, and these two choices always sit in front of you, though they do not seem obvious. Again, recognize what is habit of thought, what you have been trained and taught. rather than what is true. In those moments of silence, you will feel what is true. You cannot not feel it, for the universe shall never say no to you. It shall only say yes when you invite it in and all of its understanding.
Okay, so one issue is our need to make conscious choices about the reality we want to manifest. So the more we grow in our ability to make conscious, deliberate choices about the world we want to live in, the better those choices will serve us.
Yeah, so true. Your thoughts create your reality, but the guides explain that there's a little bit more to it than just this simple statement. Let's listen in again.
Everything that you wish is based upon a thought pattern, is based upon a belief, and so now we shall discuss detail, for it is important to recognize it is not simply a matter of wishing. I wish for this thing, or I wish for this event, or I wish for this set of circumstances. It is a matter of recognizing how your day-to-day thoughts, your minute-to-minute thoughts are operating in a ways that they are continuing to manifest your existing reality. Or you wish for a kinder, gentler world, perhaps. You wish for others around you to be kinder, and yet you must ask, where in your thought patterns are you separating from others? Where are you creating judgment or connecting others' behavior to your own happiness? These things, these thoughts, minute by minute, are important for you to recognize, and so we would suggest to you that you track them even more carefully than always.
Well, as usual, the guides have left us with a lot to ponder and a lot to practice. We have so many more insights from the guides about the subject of choice, but we just don't have time for them all, so we'll save them for another time. And I'm sure they'll be speaking more about choice in the future. But for now, let's talk through a few daily practices that we put together to help us grow in our choice making.
Sounds like a plan. Well, the first practice is helping you continually identify what you want. We call it the My Wish List. And the guides often encourage people to keep an ongoing list of the experiences, people, and events and activities and circumstances that you'd like to have in your life.
The list is ongoing because our desires change and become refined over time.
So don't limit yourself to the material things either, like a new car or a house. Though if you desire those things, well, then put them on the list. But this list can also include how you'd like to be treated by other people, for example, what you want to do or accomplish, or the things that you'd like to experience or have. Nothing should be left off that list.
Start generally, using adjectives to describe what feels best to you. Over time, you can add details, which are also great fun to imagine and record. The clearer you are about what you want, the better.
And remember, you can change your mind and desire something different at any time. The more conscious we are of what we truly want, the easier it is to make choices in that direction.
The second practice is called realizing your choice habits. The goal of this practice is to recognize when you make choices based on impulse, habits, or pure default. Those choices may have served you well in the past, but this exercise lets you consider if making a different choice might serve you better. So, take a piece of paper and create 3 columns. Title the first column Situation, the second Habitual Choice, and the third Alternative Choice. For example, in the first column, you might write down, when someone accuses me. In the second column, you may realize that your default choice in that situation has become defensive. Now, in the third column, think of a few alternatives to being defensive. What other reaction might you choose?
That's very interesting. But let's give the audience another example. Perhaps you realize that you've become stressed. And if you're anything like me, you tend to binge eat just that little bit. What other choices might you make that could perhaps serve you better? The more you become aware of your choice habits, the more likely you are to recognize them when they come up again, and then to consider if that choice is actually serving you best.
That's great. Well, as we hope you can all see, all of these practices are designed to increase your awareness so that you can make conscious choices that bring you closer to the life that you want.
Well, thanks so much for joining us for this episode. We hope that it's helped you make choices that serve you well each and every day and each and every moment.
Just remember, Source and all your divine guides are cheering you on with every choice you make. We hope to see you again soon.
We ask you then, no, we recommend for you to ask the simple question, where today are my choices limited? Where do I feel choiceless? Where is it that I believe I am responding to the choices of others, or I am required, or I must, or I have no choice whatsoever? These things are important to review on a regular basis. These things are important to examine for. There is nothing able to make a choice for you other than your agreement, other than your belief that by doing so you will be found more worthy of love. And we say to you again, as we have often, there is no barrier to the love that is available to you. There is no need to earn. There is no fear of love being withdrawn. It is there whether you behave in one way or in another. It is there whether you make any choice. And so now you see there are no wrong choices. There are only different choices. There are only choices that you make differently. So to begin in this consciousness of those chains, it is wise to see, where are you chained? What things now do you have no choice in? And there is a good place to begin, a good place to look toward how you may make a choice and break the chain in doing so. And with this, we are complete.
Coming up in the next episode of The Infinite Pathway. For the latest messages from Thomas, AJ, and the guides, please join them on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, or follow them on Instagram at Speaking From Source. You can also book your personal session with the guides on their website, speakingfromsource.com.